I'm Victor, lead designer from Above the Desk, Polish studio working on cozy narrative tycoon game Above the Snow. Let me welcome you to our beta gameplay presentation. In Above the Snow, your primary task will be managing mountain shelter, a last stop between mountaineers and beautiful trails and peaks. This stretch of the game is set shortly after the tutorial. Francis and Eva just joined Nicholas, the shelter is in pretty sorry state, but they are just getting started. Now let's focus on some goals from chapter 1. So we just finished the tutorial and let's focus on some alpinist needs. Of course we've got plenty of story to cover, but still in this video we will focus just on the systems. Here we can see our dining room set up in the tutorial. It's still pretty messy, but we'll take care of that soon. And we have a small bedroom set up over here, also in the tutorial. So let's start with our bedding. We've got 14 of guests coming in and we've got 3 of beds, and that's not mathing. So let's fix that up. Let's add 1 bed here. Okay, let's do it nicely. Let's add 1 of the beds over here. And we can also add 1 here. I'm leaving some space so we can cover the heating later, but for now we also need some double beds, I believe, because we are not running very good in space. So let's go to the radio tower, and the radio tower is damaged, so let's add 1 of our workers here, or maybe even 2, because we want that thing fixed up pretty quickly. And we've got 1 of the vents. So we've got plenty of wood, so let's just pay with wood. Let's fix up our radio tower. Let's look into our tech tree. So we need some rooms, so let's unlock 1 more room. Here I want maybe this one. It's pretty big. Let's go here. And let's fill this room with bunk beds. Oh, so if we need bunk beds, we also need to unlock them. Here. And we have bunk beds here. 1, 2. Still need 2. So let's add 1 here and 1 here. Those are not very pretty. Those are not very comfy, but we are pretty good in terms of comfort. Our comfort is giving us plus to morale. We still can expand our storage and entertainment if you want more pluses, but the one thing that will tank our morale is heating. Here you can see that on the bottom floor, if I turn on the heating, you can see our space heaters getting their job done here. And if the Alpinists are spending their time in the unheated zone, they will get minuses to their morale, and that will tank their skills on the trail, and that will lead to accidents, and accidents are a sure way to lose reputation. So at the top floor we need to cover those, so let's add radiators here. To cover those we can add space heater here and 1 radiator here. We can also add to that storage, because those rooms look pretty plain. That give me a second to add a space heater here and 1 here. Let's add something to our storage. We've got simple bedside tables. That's gonna be okay here in this room. But it's still pretty plain, so let's unlock something from the maybe even sleeping room, so we can get into those solid bedside tables. I'd really like to set them up here. And that gives us a plus to our storage right away. If we are covered in terms of storage and comfort, we are covered in terms of the heating. We also need to cover some food basics. So we've got a lot of rations, but if we want to have more, and we've got some idle workers, we can always add 2 workers here and maybe lower 1 of the meals to the lower level, because we don't need those morale from those meals right now, and we want our food supply to last. So we've got food, we've got our bedding, we've got expectations covered, so let's look into the trails. The shelter is only a stop on our guest expedition to conquer high peaks of the Khorasan region. The morale from their stay is influencing their traversal skills, and those will be compared to trails difficulty. Our guests have different types and needs regarding the trails, and we also need to fit our trail network to their expected values. So let's look into our alpinists. We've got two of the nature fun types and one of the casual trail types. If you want to just check out which one of them is needing which, we can check the compendium here, look into the guest book, look into the category, and we can see that the nature fun needs a wooded and watered trail. That is pretty low in terms of the difficulty. We want one of them to go to Celestial Grove and one to Espirital. So let's start with the Celestial Grove, because the trail to Espirital is already done. We want it to go through the forest and go through the river. This route here is not gonna match those expectations. Of course, we still can send them by here, but we'll miss out on the bonus for reputation and on the tip. So let's don't do that. If we want to cover if we want to cover some river, we can go from... Oh, we've got this thing here, so let's go by here. Here you can see that the difficulty is rising if you are changing the slope. So let's go by here. Let's join it in here. We can't cross our trails right like that, so let's go by here and by here. Of course, you can see that some of those trails are marked as slope 15. It's gonna get hard in the moments of bad weather, so we can also add some barriers in here, so that will lower difficulty in case the trail gets harder. So we've got one path already done to the Celestial Grove. Let's add the trail to this path. So let's here, and here. We've got our river, we've got our wooded terrain, and we've got a pretty easy light trail going to Celestial Grove. Let's confirm the route. Let's call it a new trail. I'm not feeling pretty creative today. So we've got that. And our accidents are likely but possible. Let's check how it matches up if we add our worker and a vehicle. So the vehicle stats are overwriting the stats of the worker. You can see the traversal here is pretty high, and you can see that it's a safe hold. So let's send our worker Eva so she can set up the trail. And in the meantime, I believe I also need to fix up those buildings, because they can get pretty handy later on. And we've got some workers idle, and we can see Eva here going pretty fast, going and finishing this trail for our first group. We've got Francis pretty close to exhaustion, so let's unassign him from his work. He didn't get almost anything done, but he's pretty slow. As a newcomer to the shelter, Francis is a newbie here, but there will be plenty of opportunities to upgrade his stats. Also, Nicholas is pretty close to exhaustion, but he's finishing up, so I believe I can leave him here, and he will finish his job and get his break after that. So that's nice. In time, there will be more alpinists, more goals, and more things to cover, but for now, I think that's it for this gameplay preview. Thank you for watching.